The market was alive with cruel noise. Traders shouted prices. Chains rattled. The smell of smoke and sweat filled the air. The auction stage stood at the center, lit by harsh lights that revealed every scar, every bruise, every frightened face of the slaves. The alien girl stood there, trembling. Her body was thin, her clothes torn. Her eyes stayed low because she knew what would happen if she dared to meet anyone's gaze. To the crowd, she was nothing. To the auctioneer, she was less than nothing. Worthless. The auctioneer spat, gripping her arm to lift it high. No strength. No skill. Barely alive. His voice carried over the jeering crowd. But I offer her anyway. Who will pay for this creature? Laughter erupted. A large alien in the front row threw a rotten fruit at her feet. Another voice shouted, "Keep her for the trash. Not even worth a single coin." The girl swallowed hard, holding back tears. She had learned long ago that crying changed nothing. It only made the laughter grow louder. The auctioneer forced her to turn. Look at her. Fragile. Broken. She will not work. She will not fight. What use is such a thing? But even the lowest life must be sold. Give me something. Anything. Silence followed. The crowd was no longer interested. The auctioneer's face twisted with anger. He hated when a sale failed. His hand shook her so hard her thin arms ached. You are nothing, he hissed. The girl's heart sank. She knew what came next. If no one bought her, she would be cast aside, left in the dirt to die alone. She closed her eyes, wishing she could vanish. Then, a voice cut through the noise. Calm. Steady. Human. I'll take her. The words froze the crowd. Every eye turned to see a tall human stepping forward. His clothes were dusty from travel. His face was hard, but his eyes were not cruel. They carried a quiet strength. He reached into his pocket and pulled out a single coin. It gleamed in the dim light. The crowd erupted with laughter again. 1 coin? For that? Someone mocked. The human is a fool. The auctioneer sneered. She is not worth even this. But if you insist, take her. She is your burden now. He snatched the coin from the human's hand and shoved the girl forward. She stumbled, falling to her knees before the stranger. For a moment she stayed there, afraid to move. She waited for the strike, the command, the cruelty she knew always followed. But the human bent down and offered his hand. His voice was low, almost gentle. Come with me. The girl looked up, confused. His eyes were steady. No mockery. No anger. She slowly placed her trembling hand in his. He pulled her to her feet and steadied her when she swayed. The crowd jeered as they walked away. She is useless. He wastes his coin. The human has lost his mind. But the man did not answer. His grip was firm, guiding her through the market. She felt her legs weak beneath her heart pounding with every step. She could not understand. Why would anyone choose her? They left the noise of the auction behind. The girl risked a glance at the human. His face remained calm, though his jaw was set with quiet determination. She whispered, barely audible. Why? Why me? He did not stop walking. Because you are not worthless. The words struck her harder than any blow. She shook her head in disbelief. Her whole life had been filled with only one truth. She was nothing. She had been told this since the day she was abandoned, since the day she was chained, since every beating, every insult, every moment of silence where no one reached out to her. Now, a human had spoken something different. Her chest ached. She wanted to believe him, but fear wrapped around her heart. What if he lied? What if tomorrow he sold her again? She dared not hope. Hope was dangerous. They reached the edge of the market where the noise faded into distant echoes. The human stopped and turned to face her. You are free now, he said. She stared at him, lost. The words did not make sense. Free? Such a thing was not real for her. Her lips trembled. Free? He nodded once. Yes. Free. No one will hurt you again. Not while I live. Her knees weakened. She almost fell. Tears blurred her sight. She tried to speak, but no words came. No chain held her. No hand struck her. For the first time in her life, she felt something she had never known. Hope. The girl pressed her hands together, holding back sobs. She looked at the human with wide, searching eyes. He had bought her for nothing. Yet in his gaze she saw that to him, she was not nothing. She was someone. And in that broken auction, where laughter and cruelty filled the air, the girl's fate quietly changed. The night was quiet compared to the chaos of the market. The stars above stretched endless and cold, like silent witnesses to the fate of the forgotten. The human led the girl away from the lights, through dusty streets, until they reached a small camp on the edge of the settlement. There was a fire burning low. Its warmth touched her face, and for a moment she froze. It had been so long since she had felt heat that was not from punishment. The human motioned for her to sit. She hesitated, unsure if this was a trap, but his steady eyes urged her forward. Slowly, she lowered herself onto the ground near the fire. The human handed her a flask of water. She clutched it with trembling fingers, her eyes darting toward him in fear. "Drink," he said softly. She lifted it to her lips, and the cool water rushed down her throat. It was too much. She coughed, spilling drops onto her chin, but she kept drinking until the flask was empty. Her heart pounded. She waited for him to shout or strike. Instead, he simply took the flask back and gave her a piece of bread. Her hands shook as she ate. Each bite felt unreal, as if she were stealing food she had no right to touch. The human watched but said nothing. His silence was not heavy. It was calm, patient, like he had all the time in the world. When the bread was gone, she dared to whisper, her voice thin as smoke. "Why do you do this?" The human leaned back, his gaze on the fire. "Because no one else would. Because you deserve more than what they gave you." The girl's throat tightened. She shook her head. "I don't. I am nothing. They told me always. I cannot fight. I cannot work. I am useless." He turned his eyes on her. His voice was low but firm. "You are not useless. Do not repeat their lies. They only wanted you weak so they could control you." Her breath caught. His words pressed against the wall she had built inside. For years she had hidden her heart behind silence, believing the cruelty of others. Now those walls trembled. She curled her knees to her chest, rocking slightly. "If I am free, then what am I supposed to do?" The human paused, then answered. "Live. Learn who you are. No one decides that for you anymore." She blinked rapidly. The thought was too large, too bright to hold. Her chest ached with fear and longing. "You will not sell me?" His eyes darkened at the question. "Never. I gave my word when I took you. You are safe with me." Safe. The word burned in her ears. She wanted to believe it. She wanted to fall into it. But trust was a dangerous thing. Trust had always been broken before. The fire cracked softly, filling the silence between them. She looked at him again. His face was not cruel, not cold. There was no greed in his eyes. Only a strength that seemed unshakable. Her lips trembled as she whispered, "Why me? You could have chosen anyone. Why choose the one worth nothing?" He leaned closer, his voice almost a whisper. "Because you were worth everything. They just couldn't see it." Her chest tightened until she could hardly breathe. She pressed a hand to her heart, feeling it beat faster than ever. She had no words. Only tears she tried to hold back. The human did not mock her tears. He did not turn away. Instead, he gave her a blanket and said quietly, "Rest. Tomorrow, we move away from this place. No one will take you again." She pulled the blanket around herself, still shaking. The warmth wrapped her like a shield, and her eyes slowly closed. Her last thought before sleep came was not of chains or hunger. It was of a human voice saying she was worth something. For the first time in her life, the alien girl drifted into sleep with hope in her heart. Morning came slowly. The girl woke to the sound of the human moving about the camp. He was packing his few belongings with calm, steady hands. The fire from the night before had burned low, leaving only glowing embers. She sat up, clutching the blanket close to her chest. For a moment she thought it had all been a dream. The bread. The water. The human's promise. But when she saw him glance back at her with a nod, she knew it was real. "Eat," he said, passing her another piece of bread. She took it carefully, still expecting him to change his mind, but he turned back to his work without a word. They walked together once the camp was cleared. The roads outside the market were dry and rough, cutting across open stretches of land. The girl followed quietly, afraid to fall behind yet too shy to walk beside him. As they moved, her eyes caught the broken machines scattered along the path. Abandoned carts. Crushed scanners. Metal scraps rusting in the dust. Something stirred inside her when she saw them. Her steps slowed near a shattered drone, its wires exposed and lifeless. She bent down, her thin fingers brushing the metal. The human noticed and stopped. "Do you know what that is?" he asked. She shook her head, but her hands kept moving over the parts. She touched a loose wire and adjusted it. The shape of the machine felt familiar even though she could not remember ever holding one before. The human crouched beside her. "You are curious." She pulled her hands back quickly, embarrassed. "I should not touch. It is broken." But he shook his head. "Broken things can be fixed." Her heart beat faster. She looked at the drone again. Something about it whispered to her, like a puzzle waiting to be solved. She wanted to try, yet fear held her back. She was used to being punished for mistakes. The human placed a small toolkit in front of her. She stared at it, surprised. His voice was steady. "Go ahead. Try." Her fingers trembled as she picked up a tool. She did not know why, but her hands seemed to move on their own. She twisted a screw, adjusted a wire, and closed a panel. The silence of the land surrounded them, broken only by the sound of her quick breaths. Then, with a faint hum, the drone's eye flickered. A small light blinked weakly. Her eyes widened. She gasped and dropped the tool, almost afraid of what she had done. It moved." The human smiled faintly. "Yes. You fixed it." She shook her head in disbelief. "No, I cannot. I do not know how." "You do," he said firmly. "It is inside you. They could not see it, but I can. You have a gift." The word felt heavy in her ears. A gift? She had never been given anything in her life. The thought that she might have something of her own, something no one could take away, made her chest ache with strange warmth. The drone's light faded again, its power too low to last. But she could not stop staring at it. For the first time, she felt a spark inside herself. Not fear. Not shame. Something else. The human packed the pieces into his bag and stood. "We will find more. You will learn. Do not doubt it." She followed him, her steps unsteady but her heart strangely alive. She touched her hands together, still feeling the memory of wires beneath her fingers. For years, the world had told her she was worthless. But in that single moment, when the machine had answered her touch, she began to wonder if the human was right. Maybe she was not worthless after all. The girl and the human traveled far from the market, yet whispers still followed them. Traders spoke of the human who had wasted a coin on worthless life. Others spoke of the girl who touched dead machines and brought them to light again. Word spread quickly, and in dark corners, greedy ears listened. By the second night, the girl felt the weight of unseen eyes. Shadows moved where no wind blew. She sat by the fire, clutching the blanket close, her heart racing. "They will come," she whispered, barely loud enough to hear. The human glanced at her. His voice was calm but carried steel. "Let them." She shook her head. "You do not understand. They will not stop. The lords of the market do not forgive. If they know I can fix machines, they will take me back. They will not care what they promised. They will chain me again. The human looked into the fire, his jaw tight. Then he said, They will try. But you are not theirs anymore. You are mine to protect. His words settled into her chest like a shield. She wanted to believe him, yet fear gnawed at her heart. That night, she woke to the sound of footsteps. Rough, heavy boots pressed against the dirt. She sat up, her body trembling. Figures moved at the edge of the firelight, their faces hidden by masks, their weapons glinting faintly. The human stood without hesitation. His hand rested on the worn grip of his weapon. Stay behind me, he said quietly. The men stepped closer. One voice snarled, Hand over the girl. She belongs to the market. You have no right to keep her. The girl's breath broke in her throat. Her body wanted to collapse, to return to chains just to survive. She whispered, Maybe I should go. If I go, they will leave you. The human turned his head slightly, his eyes sharp. No. You will not go back. The leader of the hunters stepped forward. His voice was cruel. Do not fight us, human. She is nothing. Worthless. You risk your life for nothing. The human's answer was steady, cold as iron. She is not nothing. And you will not touch her. The standoff cracked open in an instant. The hunters lunged forward, weapons raised. The human moved like a storm. His strikes were fast, his aim deadly. The girl watched in terror and awe as he fought against many, his body refusing to yield. One of the hunters broke past him, reaching for her with clawed hands. Her scream tore the night, but instinct moved her before thought did. She grabbed a broken piece of metal from the fire and swung it with all her strength. The hunter fell back with a roar, his mask cracked. Her heart thundered. She had fought back. For the first time, she had not been only prey. The human finished the fight. The last hunter fled into the dark, leaving silence heavy around the fire. Blood stained the dirt. The human stood breathing hard, his clothes torn but his eyes unshaken. The girl fell to her knees, shaking. They will keep coming, she whispered. They will never stop. The human crouched beside her, placing a hand on her shoulder. Then let them come. Every time they do, we will show them you are not worthless. You are worth fighting for. Tears burned her eyes, spilling down her cheeks. She looked at him as if seeing him for the first time. His words carried no doubt, no hesitation. He had risked his life for her when no one else would have paid even a coin. In that moment, something inside her shifted. The fear was still there, but alongside it, a spark of courage grew. For the first time, she dared to think she might not be running forever. The days that followed were heavy with silence. The girl often looked behind her, expecting to see hunters in the distance. Every shadow felt dangerous. Every sound made her heart leap. Yet beside her, the human walked with steady steps, his eyes calm, his spirit unshaken. One evening, they reached an abandoned outpost. The walls were cracked, and the roof sagged, but machines lay scattered inside, half broken and covered in dust. The girl froze at the sight. Her eyes lit with the same strange pull she had felt when she touched the drone. The human noticed. He placed his bag down and said, Go. See what you can do. Her breath caught. I cannot. Yes, you can. His voice was steady, certain. Trust yourself. She hesitated, then moved slowly toward the machines. Her hands trembled, but once she touched the cold metal, something inside her came alive. She pulled open a panel, adjusted wires, and pressed two contacts together. Sparks jumped, and a faint hum filled the air. The machine stirred. Lights flickered weakly. The girl gasped, pulling back as if she had awakened a sleeping beast. The human stepped closer, his face calm but proud. See? You have power. You can give life to what is dead. Her chest tightened with emotions she did not understand. But why me? Why can I do this? He shook his head. Some things have no reason. They just are. You were born with it. That is enough. The girl lowered her eyes, her voice breaking. All my life, They told me I was nothing. They told me I was broken. He placed a hand gently on her shoulder. They lied. You are not broken. You are rare. And you are strong. Her eyes filled with tears. No one had ever spoken such words to her. No one had ever seen her as more than a burden. Yet this human, a stranger, gave her faith she had never known. That night, under the broken roof of the outpost, he began to teach her. He showed her how to use tools, how to test circuits, how to steady her hands when fear made them shake. She listened, eager yet nervous, but with every small success, her heart grew lighter. When a lamp finally flickered to life, casting soft light across the room, the girl laughed. The sound startled her. She had almost forgotten what laughter felt like. The human looked at her, his eyes warm, and for a moment the world felt safe. As the days passed, her confidence grew. She repaired more machines. She learned to see patterns in broken things. With each discovery, she felt chains falling from her spirit. But it was not only skill that awakened. It was something deeper. When she watched the human work beside her, when she heard the quiet strength in his voice, she felt her heart stir in ways she could not name. He had given her more than food, water, and safety. He had given her belief. One night, as they sat near the fire, the girl whispered, "Why do you keep helping me? You could travel faster alone." The human looked at her for a long moment. His voice was quiet but firm. "Because I chose you. And because no one deserves to be told they are worthless. Not while I live." Her breath caught. She pressed the blanket closer around her shoulders, hiding the warmth in her cheeks. She could not answer, for her heart was too full. The stars burned above them, endless and bright. For the first time, she did not feel small beneath them. She felt awake. She felt alive. And she knew her story was only beginning. The peace did not last. The girl's gift had awakened more than broken machines. It had awakened the hunger of those who once called her worthless. By the third week, the hunters returned. This time, they did not come quietly. Their ships roared through the night sky, burning trails of fire across the stars. Dust shook beneath their engines as they landed near the outpost. The girl froze when she saw the shadows moving outside the broken walls. Her hands gripped the edge of the table where she had been working. Fear wrapped around her like chains. "They found us," she whispered, her voice trembling. The human strapped his weapon across his back. His eyes burned with determination. "Then we fight." Her heart raced. "No. We cannot. There are too many." He looked at her, his voice calm but sharp. "You are stronger now. You are not the same girl from the auction. Trust yourself." Her breath shook. She wanted to believe him, but fear pressed hard on her chest. Still, when the door of the outpost shook under heavy blows, she knew there was no choice. The walls cracked, and the hunters stormed inside. Their leader, the same cruel voice from before, shouted, "The girl is ours. Hand her over, human. She belongs to us." The human stood firm, weapon raised. "She belongs to no one." The hunters attacked. Blades clashed. Blasters roared. The air filled with smoke and fire. The girl ducked behind a machine, her body trembling. She wanted to hide, but the sight of the human fighting alone struck her heart. He was outnumbered, yet he refused to fall. His strength was great, but he could not stand forever. Her eyes turned to the machines around her. Broken weapons. Shattered drones. Dead circuits. She felt the spark inside her calling. Her hands moved before her mind could argue. She grabbed tools and wires, her fingers flying with desperate speed. Sparks lit the air as she pieced together fragments of technology. The machine hissed, then roared to life. A broken turret lifted its head, firing a storm of light at the hunters. The girl gasped, her chest burning with energy. She had done it. She had turned the tide. The hunters shouted in anger. Some rushed toward her, but the human cut them down with fierce precision. Together they fought as one. His strength and her gift. His fire and her light. At last the leader stumbled back, his mask cracked, his voice filled with rage. You are still nothing. He spat at her. A mistake kept alive by luck. The girl stepped forward, her hands glowing with sparks from the machine she had awakened. Her voice rang out clear, trembling but fierce. I am not nothing. I am not worthless. And I will never belong to you again. The leader's eyes widened before the human's blade struck him down. Silence fell over the outpost, broken only by the sound of the girl's heavy breathing. The human wiped his blade clean and turned to her. His eyes held pride. You see now? You are not weak. You are not what they said. You are worth more than they can understand. Her tears fell freely, but they were not tears of fear. They were tears of release, of victory, of something new. She stepped closer to him, her voice trembling. I fought. I truly fought. He placed a hand gently on her shoulder. Yes. And you won. For the first time in her life, she felt the weight of chains break completely. She was no longer prey. She was no longer property. She was someone with worth, someone with power. And she had proved it in battle. The battlefield was quiet at last. Smoke drifted through the broken outpost, carrying the scent of fire and metal. The hunters were gone. Some had fallen. Others had fled into the night. The girl stood in the center of the ruin, her chest rising and falling, her hands still trembling with the memory of sparks. She looked down at her palms, scarred and blackened by work, yet alive with power. The human walked toward her, his steps steady. His clothes were torn, his face bruised, but his eyes were clear. When he stopped in front of her, silence stretched between them. Then he spoke with calm strength. You are free now. No one will take you again. Her throat tightened. For so long, the word free had been nothing more than a dream. Now, standing in the ashes of those who tried to own her, she felt its weight at last. Tears filled her eyes. All my life, they told me I was worthless. But you never said it once. You gave me food. You gave me hope. You gave me a chance. The human shook his head softly. I only showed you what was already there. The worth was always yours. You only needed to see it. Her heart ached with gratitude, with something deeper than words. She stepped closer, her voice trembling. Then let me stay. Not as property. Not as burden. Let me walk beside you. The human's eyes softened, and he gave a single nod. Beside me. Always. The firelight flickered against their faces, painting the moment with warmth. She felt her fear melt away, replaced by something new. Trust. Belief. A bond unbreakable. Together, they left the broken outposts behind. The night sky stretched endless above them, filled with stars brighter than she had ever seen. Each step she took felt lighter, as if the chains of her past fell away with every stride. She no longer walked as the girl sold for nothing. She walked as someone who had fought, who had chosen, who had been chosen. Her fate had been written by cruelty, but rewritten by a human hand. And as they moved into the horizon, the girl whispered a promise to herself. I will never be nothing again. The human glanced at her, hearing the strength in her voice, and smiled. Together, they vanished into the starlit road, not as master and slave, not as savior and victim, but as two lives bound by a new future. A future where she was free. A future where she was priceless.